We don't serve stolen valor here. The bar owner's voice cut through the Friday evening noise like a knife. Richard Morrison, 71 years old, sat at the corner table he'd occupied every year on this same date, his faded UDT shirt hanging loose on his thin frame. The owner stood over him, arms crossed, face red with righteous anger. "I'm calling the cops. You disgrace every real serviceman who walks through that door." Around them, conversations died. Heads turned. Morrison said nothing, just looked down at his half-finished beer, weathered hands steady on the glass. If you believe our veterans deserve respect regardless of how they look, type honor in the comments right now. Morrison had walked into Anchor's Rest 30 minutes earlier, same as he had for the past decade. The Virginia Beach Bar sat 3 blocks from the old UDT SEAL Museum, close enough to the ocean that you could taste salt in the air. He'd chosen a quiet corner table, ordered his usual, a Budweiser and a basket of wings, and settled in to wait. The shirt he wore had been through hell and back. Faded blue cotton, frayed at the collar, with a small UDT frogman insignia that had nearly washed away over 50 years of laundering. It had been his since 1971. He never wore it for attention. He wore it because on this particular day, November 13th, it meant something. The new owner, Derek Hastings, had bought Anchor's Rest 6 months ago. He was 32, ambitious, full of plans to upscale the place. He'd served 4 years in the Army Reserve, never deployed, but wore his service like a badge. He'd been watching Morrison since the old man walked in. The shirt bothered him immediately. Too faded, too worn. The man wearing it looked too old, too fragile. Hastings had seen stolen valor before, or thought he had. He'd confronted 3 people in the past month alone, posting their photos on the bar's social media with captions about fake heroes. His followers loved it. The outrage drove engagement. "Sir, I need you to leave." Hastings stood beside Morrison's table now, voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "That shirt you're wearing, you didn't earn it." Morrison looked up slowly. His face was deeply lined, tanned from a lifetime in the sun. His eyes were gray-blue, calm as deep water. "I'm just here for wings and a beer," he said quietly. "I'm not causing trouble." Hastings' jaw tightened. "The trouble is stolen valor. It's disrespecting every real serviceman. I've got buddies who actually served." Morrison's expression didn't change. "I understand," he said softly. "But I'm meeting some people here. If you'll just—" "I don't care who you're meeting." Hastings cut him off. "You need to leave now, or I'm calling the police." The bar had gone completely silent. 40-some patrons watched the confrontation unfold. Some pulled out phones. Morrison took a slow breath, started to stand. His movements were stiff, careful. Age had settled into his joints like rust. "Don't come back," Hastings said as Morrison reached for his wallet to pay. "We don't serve liars here." Morrison paused. Something flickered across his face. Not anger, not shame. Something sadder, deeper. "You're making a mistake," he said quietly. Hastings laughed. "The only mistake is thinking you could walk in here and disrespect actual veterans." He pulled out his phone. "I'm documenting this, and I'm calling the police. Let them deal with you." Morrison stood there, one hand on the table for balance. He didn't argue, didn't defend himself. Just waited with a patience that came from decades of knowing some fights aren't worth fighting with words. Hastings was already dialing. The front door opened. Nobody noticed at first. Then a voice, deep and commanding, cut through the tension. "Frog, there you are." 10 men entered Anchor's Rest in a formation that wasn't quite military, but wasn't quite civilian either. They moved like water, fluid and purposeful. Ages ranging from late 30s to mid-50s, every one of them built like they could run through walls. They wore casual clothes, jeans, T-shirts, flannel, but they wore them the way warriors wear everything. Ready. The man who'd spoken first stepped forward. Commander James Hawk Patterson, 47, SEAL Team 4. He had the kind of presence that made rooms reorganize themselves around him. His eyes went from Morrison to Hastings to the phone in Hastings' hand. His smile disappeared. Is there a problem here? Hastings' confidence wavered but held. This man is wearing UDT insignia. I don't believe he earned it. I was just what? Another SEAL stepped forward. Lieutenant Marcus Webb, built like a linebacker, face scarred from an IED blast in Ramadi. Just disrespecting one of the toughest bastards who ever wore a trident? The color drained from Hastings' face. Patterson moved to Morrison's side, placed a hand on the old man's shoulder. Gentlemen, he addressed the entire bar, let me introduce you to Senior Chief Richard Frog. Morrison, UDT-12, Vietnam era. He was an instructor at Little Creek from 1973 to 1994. Every man in this room who wears the trident. He gestured to his teammates. We earned it because Frog Morrison made sure we were ready. He was there when Hell Week broke us. He was there when we thought we couldn't go on. He taught us what it meant to be frogmen before we ever became SEALs. Morrison's eyes had misted over. You boys didn't have to. The hell we didn't. Webb cut him off gently. You never miss it, Chief. We're not about to let you celebrate alone. Patterson turned back to Hastings. His voice was quiet now, which somehow made it more devastating. Do you know what UDT stood for? Underwater Demolition Teams. They were the predecessors of Navy SEALs. These men swam ahead of amphibious landings, clearing obstacles, marking beaches. Vietnam, Korea, World War II. Frog Morrison did 3 tours. He has a bronze star he's never once mentioned to anyone. That shirt he's wearing, he earned it 54 years ago. It's faded because he's lived an entire life since then, a life training men like us to do what he did. Hastings looked like he wanted the floor to swallow him. I didn't know. I thought, you thought an old man couldn't possibly be a hero, Patterson said. You thought heroism has an expiration date. The 10 SEALs formed a loose circle around Morrison. One of them, younger than the rest, had tears streaming down his face. Chief Morrison saved my life, he said, voice cracking. Not in combat, in training. Week 5 I was drowning. Literally drowning. Medical staff was too far away. Frog was 68 years old and he jumped in that pool like he was 20. Got me out, stayed with me until I could breathe again, then told me to get back in the water the next day. Because if I quit then, I'd quit when it really mattered. Morrison waved a hand dismissively. You were fine, just panicked. I was dead without you, Chief. We all know it. Hastings set his phone down with trembling hands. Mr. Morrison, God, I'm so sorry. I don't know what to say. Morrison studied him for a long moment. You were trying to do the right thing, he said finally. Stolen valor is real. It hurts, but so does assuming the worst about people. He paused. My daddy taught me something when I was young. He said, son, respect costs nothing, but its absence costs everything. You remember that. Patterson pulled out a chair. Chief, sit down. We're celebrating your birthday, right? 72 years of being the toughest son of a gun in Virginia. The bar erupted in applause. Someone started chanting, Chief, 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 and it spread like wildfire. Hastings stood frozen for a moment, then moved behind the bar. When he returned, he was carrying bottles, glasses, menus. Everything tonight is on the house, he announced loudly, for Chief Morrison and his teammates. And I owe you more than an apology, sir. I owe you my gratitude, for your service, for what you taught these men, for your grace just now when I didn't deserve it. Morrison smiled, a real smile this time, the kind that crinkled his whole face. Then sit down with us, have a beer, learn something. Hastings did. For the next 4 hours, he listened. Stories poured out, training nightmares, combat miracles, lessons learned in freezing water and scorching deserts. And through it all, Morrison sat quietly, occasionally correcting a detail, mostly just letting his students honor him the way he'd never let them do during training. At midnight, when the celebration finally wound down, Patterson helped Morrison to his feet. "Same time next year, Chief." "Wouldn't miss it," Morrison replied. As they headed for the door, Morrison paused beside Hastings. "You asked earlier if I earned this shirt. I did, but not the way you think. I earned it every time one of these men came home alive. Every time they succeeded because I'd prepared them. That's what service really means. It's not about the uniform, it's about the people you make better." He tapped the faded insignia. "This shirt reminds me of that. Every single day." The door closed behind them. Hastings stood in the empty bar, Morrison's words echoing in his mind. On the table where the chief had sat, someone had left something. A small UDT seal museum coin and a handwritten note. "Respect given is respect earned. Never forget that. Team 4. Hastings picked up the coin, held it tight. He never did forget. And every November 13th after that, Anchor's Rest closed its doors to the public, reserved for Chief Morrison and whoever wanted to honor him. The bar still displays that coin, mounted behind the register. A reminder that heroes don't always look like heroes. Sometimes they look like tired old men in faded shirts, carrying the weight of their service so quietly that you'd miss it if you weren't paying attention.